Appreciate your time today. I want to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining. My name is Matt Whitney. I'm the Director of Cloud Sales at RELS Technologies. We're an Amazon Web Services partner. We have on the call with us today is Wayne Sachs from Amazon Web Services, who's a solutions architect. Our time together, we're going to start off with is Wayne is going to introduce you and talk to you about cloud computing with AWS and Amazon Web Services, provide a broad introduction related to the services that are available, how people are using Amazon, and along with the high-level architecture around Amazon. From there, I'm going to review with you, once you have made a decision and you feel like cloud is the direction you want to go, what are the things that we need to think about and consider when we're adopting the cloud? How do we operationalize this within our IT organization? What are our next steps? What are the things that we have to work through? And so we'll talk through that along with some specific technologies that we have that can help to enable that. We'll provide you a demo of some of those technologies, and then at the end we'll provide a Q&A session. We're going to record just the content, but when we get to Q&A, I'll turn the recording off. So thanks again for your time today. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Wayne from Amazon. And Wayne, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it, Wayne. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the ball right over to you to drive.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Welcome to the Cloud Computing with AWS component of the webinar. I wanted to take this opportunity, about 10 or 15 minutes, to just talk through what AWS is and how we conceive of it in the larger marketplace. So the common question that we're asked pretty oftentimes is, how did Amazon.com get into cloud computing? And it's a good question to ask because it seems slightly incongruous with the Amazon.com name. But in reality, it's an integral part of the services that we have and that we bring to the marketplace as the larger Amazon.com. What happened is about 10 years ago, we were looking around and we realized that we have an expertise in global infrastructure and capacity management, and we had become very good at managing a very large fleet of information technology capabilities, packages, services, in a highly elastic and on-demand environment that was built to support the Amazon.com platform. And we looked around and we said to ourselves, well, we're Amazon.com and we believe that we should be in the business of selling to our customers the things they need. And we thought to ourselves that this would be something that our customers need, a computing platform. So we took the lessons learned that we had used to construct our own international fleet of infrastructure, and we brought it to the market as AWS. AWS is a completely standalone division of Amazon.com, so it doesn't use the backbone infrastructure from the .com, although .com is now a big customer of AWS. So what you're getting is a world-class set of infrastructure services built on the 20 years of knowledge and learning that Amazon.com put into it. And now you have a highly elastic infrastructure that provides what we call the AWS mission, which is to enable businesses and developers to use web services to build scalable, sophisticated applications. What you'll notice here is that it's not really a mission to provide information technology services per se, but it's really a mission to enable our customers to build a marketable capability for themselves or to provide for a business mission need for themselves. So we look at this as another tool in the quiver, as it were, the toolbox of our customers to be able to do things in a highly scalable, efficient, flexible, and most importantly, cost-effective manner for themselves. We approach this with the idea of utility computing, which is the notion of an on-demand, uniform, pay-as-you-go available tool. And we think of it almost as if you would think of a utility or an electric power company, as it were. So we think of the analogy that 100 years ago, when a manufacturer needed power in their manufacturing plant, they built their own power plant, a coal-fired power plant in their building, and they operated it, and that's how they had electricity for themselves. That obviously had a number of disadvantages. It's kind of dirty, it's expensive, occasionally your power plant would burn your factory down. So there's lots of problems that come along with managing your own power plant. So along comes the notion of a centralized power plant and distribution, which would be the power lines. And slowly over the course of some period of time, all of these manufacturing outfits had their power plants removed, and you purchased utility power from a central location. So we think of computing as in a similar way, that traditionally, or what we look at today as an on-premise environment, has some drawbacks to it. It's expensive, it's complicated, it's not necessarily your bread and butter to own and operate a data center. And in a lot of cases, it's cheaper, easier, and safer to purchase that as utility from somewhere else, from the central power plant, or in our case, AWS. So when you're in the on-premise universe, what you're looking at managing is physical space, cabling, power, cooling, networking, racks, server storage, certifications, labor costs. You're actually operating a fairly large facility, so a bunch of facility costs as well as real estate costs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when you're in the cloud computing universe, you spend no dollars to get started. There's no long-term contract, there's no long-term commitment. Whereas if you're trying to build an on-premises data center, you're talking about a very expensive, potentially millions of dollars worth of capital costs. That's expensive, it slows things down, it makes things hard to get started. So when you, I'm going to pull back one slide, when you look at the AWS model, what you're doing is you're paying as an on-demand price to avoid all of the on-premises complexity, as well as take advantage of the enormous scale that AWS has to offer. One of my favorite anecdotes of AWS is that when we add enough capacity every single day to power Amazon.com as a $7 or $8 billion a year company. So we're adding a tremendous amount of capacity, which brings us to what we call elastic capacity, which is one of the most powerful elements of our platform. Elastic capacity allows you to model your actual capabilities against your needs. So today, in an on-premises environment, what you're looking at is the red line, which is your capacities, what you have deployed in your data center, and your IT needs in the blue, which is really what you need as you need it. Maybe at 2 in the morning it's less, maybe at 4 in the afternoon it's higher, or maybe during buying season it's really high, maybe during tax season it's really high, depending on the business that you're doing. But it's very rarely is it going to be always steady state. So when you're in this model where it's not always completely steady state, what you see is a fair amount of waste, whether it's on and off type waste, or fast growth waste, or variable peak, or predictable peak. You're either over-provisioned, which is expensive, or you're under-provisioned, which is dissatisfactory to your customer experience. When you use Amazon Web Services, you're able to model your actual capacity to your at-the-time need. So you're always able to spend the money necessary to manage and execute your fleet's needs, but you don't need to have them, you don't need to be paying more than you're using, or in some cases, paying less than you need. So you're able to actually model your spend against your actual need. And this is something that's fairly new and not possible in most cases in an on-premises environment. Today, when you deploy a new service, you kind of stick your finger in the wind and you say, okay, I'm going to need 4 terabytes of storage. Hopefully in a year, I'm going to need, 5 servers and some networking capability. And if everything works out right, then I'll actually use this all. If things don't work out right, then hopefully I'll repurpose this infrastructure for something else. Or if it's gangbusters, then I'll go buy a bunch more servers later. But today, that's an inefficient process. With AWS, that process doesn't exist because you're able to model your needs in an on-demand, hour-by-hour basis. you're able to move from one compute instance to thousands automatedly. So you can set a number of alarms and watch metrics, maybe CPU or computer memory or any number of other ones that you might find valuable. And you can say, scale my fleet up or down based on the actual need at the actual time. And this can be done in a very simple way or a very calculated way. The capability is there to manage your fleet without ever having to wake up at 2 in the morning in a cold sweat, hoping that your infrastructure is alive and well. The other thing that you get with AWS is global infrastructure. AWS operates in 11 distinct regions with 50-plus edge locations in a content distribution network, serving tens and hundreds of thousands of customers in more than 190 countries. So we have a pretty wide distribution of data centers and facilities and capabilities spread out across the world. There are 3 major regions in the United States of America, plus GovCloud for government workloads. You see South America, Europe, Australia, Asia, China. So you're able to use all of these resources at the click of a button. There's no spin up or spin down in a meaningful sense. When you open an account, you have access to the entire world immediately with clear on-demand pricing available everywhere and a similar set of services no matter where you are. Like I said, each day AWS adds the equivalent of server capacity to power Amazon. One is a global $7 billion enterprise. That's a pretty staggering amount of capacity that's added every single day to our environment, and you'd be hard-pressed to do that in an on-premise environment. And of course, the Amazon way, Amazon.com way, is to always pass on our savings to our customers. So what you see is a series of over 45 price drops over the course of the time that we've been offering services. And that's pretty impressive considering that there's basically no competitive pressure to do so. As we add capacity, our costs go down and we pass that right along to our customers. And finally, this slide is kind of a picture slide, doesn't offer a lot, but what I'm showing here is the set of services in icon form that Amazon brings to the marketplace. There's actually a good number more that didn't fit on the slide. We offer services in storage, compute, database, managed services, networking, management and capability services, as well as automation services, and then a marketplace. And all of those combined bring a very complete portfolio of capabilities that AWS will offer you, and can be combined in any number of ways in order to give your service or your company or your customer a leg up in competing in the next generation business models. I want to thank you for your time, and with that, I'm going to hand it back to Matt, and he's going to give you a great overview of how one of our top partners is able to combine all of these capabilities to deliver some really excellent services to your customers.
Excellent. Thank you, Wayne. So appreciate anybody else who's joined. We will send out a recording of this afterwards so that if you missed any portion of Wayne's presentation, you'll be able to grab that. Also, we'll have some Q&A toward the end where we can answer any questions you might have. So when you start thinking about the cloud and you start looking at adopting Amazon, one of the key reference points in how you think about Amazon and the cloud is an analogy that's often used where we discuss that Amazon makes these raw goods. Some people might use the analogy of Lego pieces. They build the raw goods and the Lego pieces for you to leverage and build and to run your applications on. But Amazon themselves is not going to build that and run your application for you. What they're going to do is they're going to enable you, but what they look toward is typically partners to help organizations like yourselves to architect and build on that. And so RELIS, we're headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, and the areas that we focus in are around cloud, infrastructure, and people. And really in the area of cloud, we focus exclusively on Amazon Web Services. And the reason why we do that is if you look at what the analysts say and where the market is today, Amazon has been in the market longer than everyone else as far as this web services or cloud computing, about 8 years now. And what that's allowed them to do is to build out extensive level of services and amount of services, and really to innovate at a quick, very fast pace. The rest of the market is trying to catch up, but we still feel that Amazon is at least 2 to 3 years ahead as far as technically, and 5 to 7 years as far as total infrastructure and capacity. As you can see here from Gartner, they referenced Amazon's current market share and discussed their complete compute capacity in comparison to the rest of the market. And they found that Amazon actually has 5 times the compute capacity of all of these other 14 providers combined. And that was about a year ago. I think that's continuing on that same trajectory at this point. We're seeing other cloud providers make investments, but right now Amazon is the vast leader in the market. And so therefore, RELIS has really focused our capabilities in the area of delivering services around Amazon Web Services, because we believe it'll solve most of our customers' challenges and problems as they look at adopting the cloud. So when you think about adopting the cloud, there's a lot of benefits, and some of those that Wayne just went over. And so the flexibility it gives your IT organization along with your individual business units. How long does it currently take for someone, if they have an idea or a project, they have a new application they want to deploy, how long does it take to get access to resources in order to deploy that? That sometimes can be frustrating, it can be a challenge. IT departments are overwhelmed with maintaining and keeping the lights on, but the ability to have that agility and flexibility to meet the growth requirements of your organization. Total cost reduction is a big area. Simplified governance, actually improved IT security. With all the concerns that folks have related to the cloud and security, what we found continuously with customers is they're actually able to improve their IT security footprint because of a lot of what Amazon takes care of for you. You're able to focus on the other areas and really shore those up and have a very strong security footprint in your approach. Moving from CapEx to OpEx can be very beneficial. And really, the main area that I see more and more customers is really kind of getting back to focusing on your core business. So whether if you're in healthcare, you know, your business is all about care and point of care for patients. If you're in education, it's about servicing students and educating students. If you're in, you know, whatever business you might be in, most of us, our businesses aren't racking servers. And so really being able to focus your efforts and your energy in the areas that are going to drive the most value for your business. But it's not all roses and cotton candy when you start looking at the cloud, because there's a lot of challenges that you can run into, a lot of false starts if you don't have a good plan to start off with. RELIS, when we look at the challenges associated with this and the need for a strategy, one of the things that we do to help customers to start thinking about that is something we call a cloud roadmap or cloud adoption framework. And so this is a pathway that we usually see customers go down as they start thinking about and considering the cloud. So the first area that you really want to do is really understand where your current state is. We found that most CMDBs are, you know, the max 50% up to date. There's a lot that they don't know about their environments, and really being able to properly assess their readiness for adopting the cloud, you really need to understand what your current state is. And so going through a discovery process to understand what your current environment looks like is essential. And I'm going to talk to you about a solution that we have that really enables that. It's really powerful. From there, classifying your applications and your architectures, not only by the particular platforms, the types of applications, the critical level of criticality to your business, but also what kind of migration approach you want to take. Moving to the cloud, and specifically AWS, requires some additional work sometimes in order to get the full benefits out of it. And so we're going to talk through what those look like. From there, what is the business justification? What's the ROI? Is there a TCO and ROI related to moving to something like Amazon? What are the benefits to our organization, identifying that? And then from there, starting to lay out what our wave plans look like, where a roadmap, in a sense, for adoption over the next number of years is going to look like. So this is an engagement that RELIS has and that we service our customers with today, and that we've helped a number of customers think through this process. So one of the areas I'm going to focus on is in the area of cloud migration. If you have current workloads that you're looking to migrate to the cloud, you want to start thinking about how do I analyze those and then make decisions on what's going to be best for my migration approach. And so RELS Technologies, we actually have our own proprietary technology in the area of cloud adoption. And our big statement around this is zero downtime, zero defect, and zero disruption. That we're going to enable you to start looking at how you migrate workloads, how you start migrating to the cloud, but not have the downtime and disruption that a lot of times technologies can provide. So we've got two solutions today. One is Vision and one is Motion, and I'm going to dig into those with you. So Vision is agentless discovery for the enterprise. So in an agentless fashion, I can help you and go out and discover all of your servers running in your environment. So physical, virtual, along with AIX and Solaris, I can go out and discover those running in your current data centers. The benefit of it being agentless is it's non-intrusive, it's secure, there's no server reboots, there's no disruption as far as your current operations. We're not doing port scanning, we're not doing packet interrogation, so there's no concern as far as your security. We can actually deploy this solution on premise and you can keep and maintain all of it locally, or we can deploy it in a cloud model also. So data collection happens locally at the host, and I'm going to talk to you through how we're able to do this in an agentless fashion. So our first discovery point from our Vision console is a non-credentialed discovery. So we'll go out and deploy a Java container script, and we'll go out and discover all of your physical and virtual servers. From there, we'll pull those back, and one of the benefits of doing the non-credentialed discovery is that we oftentimes will find servers that may be part of shadow IT, not aware of. Maybe a third-party provider came in and installed it in your data center, and someone just lost track of it, had some turnover in your IT organization, et cetera. So it allows us to make sure that we get the proper scope of what's in your environment today. From there, we'll pull credentials, and then we'll do a credentialed discovery with this script. When we do so, we'll set a timer related to the script to run, and we'll pull details related to that individual host. And I'll show you what some of those outputs look like. Once that timer is fully run, so whether that's 4 hours, 4 days, 4 weeks, whatever it might be, we're going to then pull that data back into our database and our console to be able to analyze and provide advanced reporting. Part of that also is going to be the ability to map out all of your application dependencies. Let me show you how we do some of that. So these are some of the outputs that we provide as far as this solution goes in Discovery. So exportable spreadsheets, raw data that we can provide you, specifically dependency mapping along with affinity mapping, along with host detail reports. So I'm going to show you some samples of what these look like. So this is a sample report. It's a raw data file. And in here, you can see an individual IP address of a specific server being used. Over here, you can see the ports that's being used as far as this connection, what remote host it's connecting to, the remote IP, what the ports are at that remote host, the programs being used, the connection count, along with the protocol. So we're able to take this raw data, and then we're able to map it out in an automated fashion. So in this specific slide here, you see the servers identified in green are a specific application stack running. And what we're able to do is to look at what are the dependencies for this individual application with other servers and hosts within the data center, within the network. So within the network, I've identified all of these blue servers or hosts that have dependency upon this 6-server application stack. But not only am I able to discover and identify the dependencies internal to your network, but also external to your network, additional servers that have dependency upon that. So as you start considering which applications are going to be the low-hanging fruit, the easy ones to initially start looking at deploying in the cloud, a lot of times you're going to look for are low dependency, low affinity workloads. Or if you do have ones that have a lot of dependencies, being able to accurately identify all of those dependencies so that when you do go to migrate those workloads, you migrate all of the dependent applications and servers with it. From there, we're able to develop for you also the level of affinity. So even though these might have dependency, they might have a low affinity related to it too. So we can start to rate the level of affinity or the amount of connections that are being made between these dependencies. This is an example of a host detail report. So in here, this is some of the outputs that you would see as we do discovery. So you can see the specific servers, you can see the operating system running on it, you can see the types of processors, the BIOS version, etc. We dig in and we'll show you the NIC card information, processor information, memory, logical disks, share information, map drives. This is an example of application inventory, so we can show you what applications are running on that host, individual host. We can also show you local firewall rules on the individual host. Application port mapping, what ports are you going to need and you're going to use. This is very important as you're moving to the cloud and leveraging the cloud to really be able to identify what ports need to be properly opened and leveraged and utilized. And then this is really good too. So when you start thinking about elastic compute, and you look at these things and services that Amazon has around the areas of auto scaling, or the ability to scale horizontally an application, where you don't have to necessarily run the largest instance or the peak size instance all the time. You can actually scale out and run smaller instance types. One of the big areas you want to do is identify, based upon the workload type, which ones are going to make the most sense for that. And you see in some of Wayne's earlier slides where he talked about types of workloads. Specifically, you see spiky workloads, or where they're unpredictable in a sense. And so what we can do is we can identify that with some of these host detail reports based upon CPU utilization, memory utilization, along with other metrics. And that can inform kind of the migration approach along with the wave planning associated with your cloud adoption. So RELIS Vision is an agentless discovery solution intended for migration planning. It is not there to replace a CMDB. It can inform your CMDBs, but it's not intended to replace it. It is a project-oriented solution to inform transformation planning. And when you start thinking about, okay, now I want to start thinking about migrating, and what we've seen are 3 primary approaches to migrations into Amazon and the cloud. And one that we see a lot of folks do, and there's some challenges related to it because you typically don't get all of the benefits related to the cloud, and it's called lift and shift, or forklift migration. And this is where we just take what you're currently running as is in your current data center and current environment and deploy it very similarly in the cloud, and specifically Amazon Web Services. There's a low cost to do this. It's very easy to migrate up, but one of the things you run into, the challenge is you're not getting a lot of the benefits that we've been talking about related to cost savings, scale, performance, and some of those other areas that the cloud provides. But there's some services and some solutions where lift and shift or just steady state is going to make sense for you as a customer. The other area that you're going to find, and this is where we find the sweet spot, is the replatforming. So this is where you start to embrace some of the services in the cloud. In the cloud, you'll find services that act as platform as a service solutions, database solutions services, where Amazon will manage the actual operating system and all your patching and all your updates, and you just have to manage the actual data in your database. So they take a lot of the administrative burden off, give you some of the benefits. Then implementing things like auto scaling and some additional services. Replatforming can be a great benefit, not as great in cost. You're not having to re-architect the application necessarily, but you can instead, you start to embrace some of the features and functions running in the cloud in Amazon. And then the last area, and this might be in areas where you have specific apps that are resource intensive, maybe they're really critical to your organization, they have a lot of upside as far as taking advantage of benefits in the cloud, but there's definitely some work that needs to be done to the code, to the way it's architected in order to take full advantage. And this is where you come in and you cloud refactor. So you really are taking a look at your application, the requirements of your users, and you're really looking to redesign with the cloud in mind. Now, this takes a lot of, this is going to be more of an investment on the front end, but typically you're going to see significant benefits in the way you're able to support your users and your customers with those solutions. So three of these migration approaches, and so typically as you go through and you use Vision to discover your current environment, these migration approaches become apparent. And this is what will oftentimes help customers think through what application and what migration approach is best for me. So from there, we also have another solution that I mentioned earlier called Motion. And what Motion does is it allows you to automate some of these migrations into AWS. Currently today, what we can do is we can migrate your current workloads directly into an Amazon Virtual Private Cloud or a VPC. And we can do so at great speed and at a very, very low cost in relation to the rest of the market. The way we're able to do this, let me show you what that looks like, the architecture, is we're able to deploy this console either on-premise or in the cloud. And the console, you'll notice that nothing actually passes through our console. It's a direct source to target migration. There is no appliance for the migration. There's no intermediary appliance or step that you have to take. There's no data centers having to go through. It is a direct source to target migration. So I can take your physical, your virtual servers, basically any Windows or Linux server that you have today, and I can migrate it directly into Amazon. I can then pre-position AMIs, or I can and migrate it directly into there, along with the full workload, which would include your data. So right now, currently today, we deploy that data into an EC2 instance running an EBS volume or a block storage volume. But next month, in the next few weeks, we're going to be releasing the ability for us to migrate the data directly into RDS, which is Amazon's relational database service. So we're really excited about that we're continuing to develop and provide integrations for assisting with migration. So as you have large workloads, large database systems, and you're looking to migrate those workloads, we can really help you to accelerate that process and accelerate that with our Motion solution. So coming back to this, these two solutions, Vision and Motion, really help to enable the process of going through your discovery, your classification, your mapping, and pulling all your mapping together along with your migration. The other area that I wanted to highlight quickly is once you're in the cloud, how do I support myself? And so Relish Technologies has a few different solutions in the areas of supporting you once you get to Amazon. These are a number of the areas related to our managed services we can support you with. We have a standalone solution around cost containment and cost management that enables you to have a tool that we provide you to manage your ongoing cost. It also does best practice checks. We actually do 300 different best practice checks and evaluate your current spend, evaluate your current setup for security and best practice alignment and compliance. We can do alerting, monitoring, CloudTrail, and additional features and services in that. Our cloud managed services supports Amazon in your Amazon environment. We have different service levels, 15-minute SLA, a 30-minute SLA, and a 60-minute SLA, depending upon the severity. And then we have a number of different service options. I want to highlight a few of these pieces in this service options, and really one of the key ones is going to be around the area of backup. So what we're able to do is back up, once you deploy something to Amazon, I can, in an automated sense from your managed service provider, I can establish policies for backing up all of your server images, all of your block images, all of your AMIs, your S3 buckets or your object store buckets. And I can set policies around those and enforce those across your Amazon account. I can identify new services that have been rolled out that have not had these policies applied to them. I can report on that, and then I can apply those policies for you. We provide 3 different levels of backup. Backup level 1 allows us to back up all of your instances, all your data within the same region. Backup level 2 is where we jump into the advanced function over here. This is where we can back up and set up your backup in an automated fashion. We can back up to another region. So let's say you're using Oregon, or you're using the Virginia region today, the Northern Virginia region for Amazon. We can actually take you between Oregon to Virginia or Virginia to Oregon and set up those to automatically back those up also to another region. And then backup level 3 becomes really interesting. So this is where we can continue to do those backups to the different regions, but then we can also back up to another cloud provider also. So provide you that third level of backup capabilities. So our managed services platform, it's 24/7, 365 alert monitoring and management of your environment. And then the last thing I wanted to go over with you, and then we'll do some Q&A, is the area around getting started. So if you haven't used Amazon yet and you're interested in learning more about it and you haven't kicked the tires yet on it, we actually do have a program at RELIS. You can find this on our webpage at relis.com called Getting Started. It's under our cloud menu. And so what we will do is we'll actually invest in helping you to kind of get stood up, along with learning and getting yourself educated around Amazon, and then helping you to set up a proof of concept. So the first thing we can do for you is we can actually set up an Amazon account for you. In that, we will provide you an hour for free with one of our cloud architects. And that cloud architect will help you to set up your first VPC. And your VPC is your virtual private cloud, which enables you to establish your own CIDR block, extend your own networking into the Amazon cloud. And so we can help you to set up and lay the foundation for the Amazon environment that you need to start kicking the tires and testing out with. Amazon provides a free tier for most of its services, so you could then spin up servers, spin up images, spin up database instances, and do so without any cost incurred. From there, we'll also give you that cost management tool that we talked about. We'll give that to you for free. The second thing we'll do is we'd be glad to set up and provide you with a workshop on Amazon. So we'll sit down with your team and we'll do an educational time, whether it's a 90-minute WebEx, or if it makes sense, doing a half-day workshop even, where we do close to what we call like an immersion day. With that, we'll provide you labs and hands-on access to the Amazon cloud. The third area that we'll help you with then is to help you to identify what's a low-hanging fruit use case. I want to take an application and test it out. I want to do DR. I want to do backup. How do I do that? And I want to test something like that out. So we'll help you to identify that. And then we work with a number of different companies today that help us to fund a lot of these proof of concepts. So we can work with, we work really well with Intel today, and Intel a lot of times will help us to fund some of these. We also have some funding available also for these proof of concepts. So it allows you to prove it out before you have to really go too far along in your strategy. So just want to wrap up and open it up for Q&A at this point. And answer any questions. Wayne is here, who is Amazon Web Services Architect. He can answer any questions you might have too. But what I'll do is I'll open it up to you. Everybody got muted when you joined, so what I'll do is I'll just unmute you. And if you have any type of questions, you know, we'd be glad to answer anything that you might have. So, Wayne, what is the most common use case that you see today as far as initial use case in the cloud?
It's a great question. Typically, we see a couple different starter places. One is dev test environments, particularly for new web-based applications that companies, partners, and customers are rolling out. So we'll see that a lot. The second, probably most typical entry point is backup and recovery or disaster recovery, kind of one or both of those models, where our partners and customers are either performing regular backups and storing them to S3, to the storage in the cloud, or deploying DR pilot light sites into AWS and using those as overflow capture, if you will, when they have spikes in their own services coming through their front door.